Do you know how many videos we have dedicated to China so far? No less than 5 videos. It is by far one of the topics we have talked about the most, and for good reason. China, the world's second largest economy and the second most populous country, has been experiencing some turbulent years. Let's recap: the bursting of the real estate bubble, the trade war, the addiction to debt, and the rapid aging of a country that is already losing inhabitants and whose working-age population will shrink by more than 200 million by 2050. As a result, growth has slowed, many investments are leaving the country, and the youth unemployment rate continues to break historical records. We have talked about all of this at length on this channel. However, we still need to address an essential point of view. We need to tell you about the areas where the People's Republic of China is already the global leader. Because despite the crisis and all sorts of problems, we also find an enormous industrial, financial, and above all, technological muscle. Let's get started. Hello to all the community of Finance for All, welcome to another video. In recent decades, the primary driver of China's growth has been, above all, investment. The Asian giant has built massive amounts of infrastructure of all kinds: factories, roads, airports, shopping centers, and of course, housing, as if there were no tomorrow. During this process, China has modernized and has also become the world's factory. Of course, beyond the photographs and the big headlines, all this insatiable construction frenzy has also come at a cost, and I'm not just talking about the real estate bubble. Take a look at what has happened with the high-speed rail network. As many of you may know, China has built by far the largest network in the world. The map is astonishing, and the network is expected to reach 50,000 kilometers by 2025. That is the news I'm sure you have seen countless times on television. What is less known is that during this process, the state-owned railway company has accumulated more than $900 billion in debt. And not only that, in recent years, it has also amassed significant losses. This is what, for example, the Cato Institute has described as the high-speed rail debt trap. And the same thing that has happened with the railway has also occurred in many other areas. China has made formidable investments that accelerated economic growth for years, but later, when these projects became operational, they did not deliver the expected results. Instead, this policy has caused a massive increase in the national economy's debt. At the same time, Xi Jinping's industrial policy has caused public companies to grow more than private ones. This is what generates a lot of fear, that China might become a new Japan. In other words, just when it seemed that the Japanese power was going to take over the world, it suddenly stopped growing. Take, for example, what happened to the Japanese stock market. As you can see, it was only a few months ago that the Nikkei index surpassed its 1990 level. More than 30 years have passed. So, one thing is clear: China needs a change in its economic model. And you know what? Right here, we come face to face with a very different side of the country. Friends, China has become an enormous industrial power. No matter where we look, there are products made in this country. For example, its shipbuilding capacity alone is 200 times larger than that of the United States. In other words, the country may be more or less in crisis, which is somewhat normal, but despite this, the industrial capacity and the ability to adapt exist. Remember, the Great Depression did not prevent the United States from winning World War II, which, by the way, turned it into the world's factory. This was known at the time as the arsenal of democracy. But that's not all. China is not only an industrial power but also becoming a technological power, leading many sectors in research and development. This is precisely what we are going to explore. But first, take a look at this graph, which I think will surprise you. Every year, China produces almost twice as many science and engineering graduates as the United States, Japan, Germany, Russia, South Korea, and Taiwan combined. This, of course, has significant consequences. Pay close attention. In 2022, China published Document 79, a directive for senior officials requiring critical Western technology to be replaced with local technology by 2027. Now, even state-owned companies are required to update their progress quarterly to meet this goal. And, of course, as you can imagine, the Chinese government is investing heavily in the development of indigenous technologies. This has become, no more and no less, the top national priority. So, what we are going to see next are some of the main fields in which China already has an uncontested leadership on a global level. And friends, we are going to start by taking a look at a technology that was abandoned many years ago by the West and is now back in vogue: nuclear energy. China has the largest nuclear power plant construction plan in history. We're talking about an investment of over $400 billion, with which China intends to build 8 to 10 reactors every year until it surpasses 150 nuclear power plants. Naturally, such a massive level of investment is creating a huge industry around these plants, making China a technological leader. And friends, the achievements so far are significant. These include the first modular nuclear reactor in operation, the first thorium reactor among various technologies, and the largest development of molten salt plants. All of these are more efficient and safer nuclear technologies. China will launch the world's first nuclear reactor without uranium. Increasingly, countries looking at nuclear energy are starting to look directly at China. But we are just getting started. The next field in which China is becoming the world's biggest leader is something you've likely heard a lot about recently: battery and electric vehicle technology. China is clearly the world's largest battery manufacturer. Just one leading Chinese company in this sector controls over 50% of the global battery production. Although it has had some ups and downs, this company has performed very well on the stock market in recent years. But we are not just talking about a mere manufacturer, it is also a leader in R&D. This company globally dominates the development of lithium iron phosphate batteries with fast charging, sodium-ion batteries, which are much cheaper, and is fiercely working on making commercially viable solid-state batteries. And I insist, we are talking about just one company. Moreover, leadership in batteries has led to another booming activity: electric cars. And believe me, this is changing everything. Take, for example, the case of BYD. Not only is it a significant battery manufacturer, but it has also become one of the most promising automotive companies globally. This company has set a goal to market electric cars internationally for as low as $10,000, potentially making its cars akin to the Model T of our time. That is the ambitious challenge they have set for themselves. But BYD is just one example of a massive explosion of automotive companies and brands, making China, for the first time in history, the world's largest car exporter. The growth is staggering. This boom has triggered reactions such as these. The United States imposes 100% tariffs on Chinese electric cars. Biden seeks to protect the American industry just months before the elections. Trade battle: Europe joins the United States in applying tariffs on Chinese cars. And friends, from cars, we move on to drones. Here, China's leadership is even more pronounced. Just their largest manufacturer, DJI, controls over 70% of the world's drone production. I repeat, more than 70%. And it's not just about civilian drones. If the Ukraine war has demonstrated anything, it's that drones are becoming absolutely indispensable for militaries and security forces, and as you can see, the vast majority of them are Chinese, China, and more China. Well, we've chosen these three technologies, but we could have highlighted many other examples, from solar panels to space exploration. The latter, by the way, is not well known, but since 2021, China has had its own international space station in orbit. But okay, it's possible that some of you are now asking a question: all this is impressive, but what about chips? After all, they are the key component of technological advancement, and the Biden administration has imposed many restrictions to prevent China from catching up in this field. Yes, it's true that in this case, China is very far from leadership. However, there is an important nuance. China does not dominate the development and manufacturing of cutting-edge chips, but the global chip market is much larger. Most of the chips used in the world are so-called legacy chips, manufactured with older technologies that China already knows how to produce perfectly. These are the chips we find in cars, airplanes, many medical devices, industrial machinery, and most equipment. Even though most of these chips are still made outside of China, the country is adding new factories every year. In 2023 alone, China added more legacy chip production capacity than the rest of the world combined. They are not cutting-edge chips, but Beijing's goal is to catch up gradually. And friends, to achieve this, they are investing enormous amounts of money. This is Beijing's bet for Chinese companies to dominate many of the most in-demand global tech markets. And you might ask, what about tariffs? Here, the Chinese government has a rather groundbreaking idea. If the United States and Europe penalize their companies and technology with tariffs, they will seek to become the indispensable partner for emerging and developing economies worldwide. In this way, they aim for the new globalization of the 21st century to be dominated precisely by them. This is the other side of China that we still needed to tell. So, as you can see, the Asian giant may not be going through its best moment, but that doesn't mean the country doesn't have strong points. In all these fields we've shown, Chinese dominance is very clear. The question now is, who do you think will win the technological race, the United States or China? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and let's start a debate. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe.